Hello students, in the continuation of our chapters of poetics, now we are doing chapter 4th. In chapter 4th, we will see the origin of the poetry. What is the origin of poetry? We are doing now. It is clear that the general origin of poetry was due to two causes, each of them part of human nature. So these causes are part of human nature. Human nature is the origin of poetry because poets imitate human life, action of human being. Imitation is natural to man from childhood. We know this thing very well that child learns by imitation. Child imitates his or her elders. One of his advantages over the lower animals being this that he is the most imitative creature in the world and learns his earliest lessons by imitation. So this art of imitation or skills of imitation in human being is considered one of his greatest gifts given by God. And it is also natural for all to delight in works of imitation. So he learns his necessary things by imitation. In the same way, he also creates arts to delight by imitation. So imitation is the medium for his creation of arts. The truth of this second point is shown by experience. So the creation of delightful things includes experience by the artist. Though the objects themselves may be painful to see, we delight to view the most realistic representation of them in art, the forms, for example, for the lowest animal and of dead bodies. The explanation is to be found in a further fact. To be learning something is the greatest of pleasure not only to the philosopher but also to the rest of mankind. However small their capacity for it, the reason of the delight seeing the picture is that one is at the same time learning, gathering the meaning of the things. So imitation is used in delighting and in creation, and every person use this imitation according to his or her capacity, and everyone tries to get meaning from this uh, from the objects, gathering the meaning of things. Example, that the man there is so and so, for if one has not seen the thing before, one's pleasure will not be in the picture as an imitation of it, but will be due to the execution or coloring or same similar cause. Imitation then being natural to us. For example, when we see a painting, and painting is based on any theme, and in real we have not seen the picture, the real scene that is created in the painting, but this imitation in painting, imitation of this scene or nature in painting, it gives us the pleasure, and the pleasure that a painter finds in the natural scene, and he imitates this pleasure in in his painting, and we get this pleasure by this painting. So imitation is here medium for us. Imitation then being natural to us, as also the sense of harmony and rhythm, the meters being obviously aspects of rhythm. It was through their original attitude and by a series of improvements, for the most part gradual on their first efforts. A poet creates meter, and this meter is an improvement in the art of imitation. By a series of improvements, for the most part gradual on their first efforts, that they created poetry out of their improvisations. Then poetry can be broken up in two kinds according to the individual character of the poets. Poetry, however, soon broke up into two kinds according to the individual character of the poets. For the graver among them would represent noble actions and those of noble personages, and the meaner sort of actions of the ignoble. So, poetry can be divided into lower and higher forms, and these lower and higher forms are because of the character of human nature, that is the object of imitation. The latter class produced invective at first. So, here we have seen that the nature of poetry depends on two things. One is nature of poet, and second is nature of object. If poet is grave in his nature and in his temper, he imitates grave things in his poetry, and when he is light-hearted, then he imitates uh, light things in his works. So the poetry is based on these two things. The latter class means the poet who imitates ignoble things produced invectives at first, means he makes satires on the people just as other did hymns and panegyrics. The people of or the poets of serious nature produce hymns and panegyrics. Panegyrics means praise of someone, songs in praise of someone. We know of no such poem by any of the pre-Homeric poets, though there were probably many such writers among them. Homer is included in first class of the poets that are of serious nature or grave nature. We know of no such poem by any of the pre-Homeric poets, though there were probably many such writers among them. Instances, however, and be found from Homer downwards. Example, his Margarites and the similar poems of others. In this poetry of invective, its natural fitness brought an iambic meter into use. Invective poetry, in invective poetry, someone is uh, commented by the poet, someone is attacked by poet, and the flow of this poetry is in colloquial language, and iambic meter is near to our day-to-day language. So in the poems that are invective in nature, so the iambic meter is used in the poems that are invective. Hence our present term iambic, because it was the meter of their iambs or invectives against one another. The result was that the old poets became writers of heroic and others of iambic verse. Homer's position, however, is peculiar. When we see the position of graver poets, we will see the position of Homer, and his position is special. Just as he was in the serious style, the poet of poets, because he is of a higher degree poet, standing alone not only through the literary excellence. We can see that Homer achieved not only literary excellence but also through the dramatic character of his imitations. So, along with the literary excellence, he also gives a higher position to his characters that are objects of his imitation. So, too, he was the first to outline for us the general forms of comedy by producing not a dramatic invective but a dramatic picture of the ridiculous. So, in this chapter, we also see the definition of the ridiculous. What is ridiculous? What is the thing that we can make fun of? His Margites, in fact, stands in the same relation to our comedies as the Iliad and Odyssey to our tragedies. Iliad and Odyssey are two tragedies by Homer. As soon, however, as tragedy and comedy appear in the field, those naturally drawn to one line of poetry became writers of comedies instead of iambs, and those naturally drawn to the other, writers of tragedies instead of epic. Because these new modes of art were grander and of more esteem than the old. Tragedy advanced by slow degrees. So the progress of tragedy lies in the slow, slow rhythm. Each new element that showed itself was in turn developed. Having passed through many changes, it found its natural form and there it stopped.